listening to Kingston Community Radio on WGHQ Kingston. On your radio at 920 AM and 92.5 FM, and also online at mykcr.org.
To battle is to fight, to struggle, to overcome, and ultimately for the Marine Corps, it means to win. There is no alternative. It's not just a statement of intent. It's a promise to our nation. A promise kept for more than 2 centuries. A promise of the Marines.
Hi, I'm Kelsey Grammer. Wounded Warrior Project supports injured veterans by connecting them with fellow warriors, by serving them through mental health and wellness programs, and by empowering them to live on their own terms. No one should face a battle alone. Join us at woundedwarriorproject.org.
Long ago, you wouldn't think of galloping on a horse while doing calligraphy, and you wouldn't have attempted to ride your bike while typing a letter. Yet you think you can safely operate a multi-ton vehicle while texting? Behind the wheel is no place to multitask. If you want to BRB, drive now and text later. Lives depend on it.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Jared Mans from the Spring Lake Fire Department, and I support Kingston Community Radio, and so should you.
This portion of Kingston Community Radio is brought to you by Ulster Savings Bank. Visit their newest branch, conveniently located at the Ulster Commons Plaza in Lake Katrine. Experience the difference that local community banking offers with the convenience of another great location, easy access, plenty of parking, and a 24-hour ATM. Ulster Savings Bank, invested in community, invested in you. Member FDIC.
Agent Freeman. Good morning, and welcome to October 1st, here at Kingston Community Radio. With you, Reynolds, Mario, Catalano. We're talking politics today.
Hey, something different for us, huh?
Something different for a change, right? Anyway, welcome to all those who braved the dark morning to get up and
cold
and cold morning to listen to a couple of old guys talking about politics, but I wanted to start you with the county budget. Evidently, there was a budget presentation yesterday. You attended.
Yes,
and
indeed.
I'd love to get your take on the latest and greatest county budget.
Well, the budget was held for the first time in county history that anybody knows, and I go back a few years. The budget was held outdoors.
Oh,
it was held in a pavilion at the county
fairgrounds, right?
fairground complex. There's what they call the Field of Dreams.
Oh,
is behind the fairgrounds up a hill. It's a beautiful plateau, meadow, fairly flat. And they've got 2 huge soccer fields up there, and a couple of baseball or softball fields, and
wow.
really, and well maintained. And standing above it all is Mohawk Tower. It's quite a Shungum Cliffs. It's a beautiful spot, and this isn't your ordinary town of Ulster pavilion either. It's a work of art.
Yeah.
So anyway, the county executive Pat Ryan gave his 3rd budget presentation, and he's literally been up and down, and now he's up again.
Okay.
When he presented this is round figures, when his first budget went from the previous Hind budget of $330 million to 350, we all kind of went, whoa, that's a pretty big spending increase.
20 million.
Yeah, and that was in 1919. That was just pre-pandemic. And then it plunged back to 330. And now,
wow.
And now it's back up to 350. So it's been up and down. The budget, of course, leads with the political component, which is that there's a zero tax increase.
Zero.
I don't know how you can spend $350 million and not raise taxes, but they're doing that. The tax levy remains the same,
Okay.
so they didn't cut taxes.
So obviously, sales tax has improved.
Yeah, I will say this for Ryan. He was fairly straightforward about what he planned to do. He was straightforward about what he planned to do, what he saw as the priorities, how he planned to address them. For instance, in addressing the sales tax increase, which has been publicized over last year being 2020,
Yeah.
it was a terrific decrease in sales tax from 2019. And so now it's back up, much like his budget.
Yeah.
In fact, his budget is predicated on sales tax revenue. It's about $120 million.
Mm-hmm.
They predict, or he predicts, that sales tax revenue will go up almost 19%.
Sure.
But then he added, he said, now this is off last year when we had a down year. So
Yep.
that's, for the people that spend these numbers, you don't often get that kind of
Yeah, that honesty.
yeah. And I think I certainly appreciate it because I've tried to wrestle through these numbers for years, and,
Oh, yeah.
and they're almost impossible.
So did they attribute this to the relocation of Barnes & Noble in the town of Ulster, or,
Well, it's all internal, Mario.
Yeah. or an empty mall? How about that? Was that helping?
No, I think they attribute they attributed it primarily the sales tax revenue, and then the which is driven also by the fact that under state law now, if you buy something in California,
You pay tax.
you pay taxes here, and that's been a huge boost. And the other component is the bed and breakfast Airbnb taxes. So those two factors alone add substantially to the county budget, but they're spending it. They have something like $38 million in federal and state COVID relief funds.
Oh,
And they're going to finance some major projects. His two priorities seem to be, at least as stated, are mental health
yep.
and what's the other one? I got it in my notes. The mental health component. He was quite emphatic about that. He talked about a sort of synergy of policies, of problems and solutions coming together. That it's all kind of the same thing. They saw a tremendous increase in opiate addiction during the pandemic, and in mental health issues. He was quite severe with the previous administration, although not naming anybody by name. In their shutting down the county mental health.
Exactly.
And
the whole agency, Gonzo.
Gone to Poughkeepsie and goodbye forever, apparently. He talked about Westchester Medical's pulling 60 beds out of, I think, probably Benedictine as being morally reprehensible. That's pretty strong language.
For a county executive, morally reprehensible.
Reprehensible.
I agree with him, by the way.
Yeah. He called the owner of Texas City a bad actor.
Bad actor.
They're generally the type of labels we hang on Middle East terrorists.
Guy hasn't paid any taxes in forever, and that qualifies him as a bad actor. Okay, thank God he didn't use the term like crook or anything of that nature. That would have been...
Yeah.
You don't want to get too ugly. But anyway, so we're here this morning at Kingston Community Radio, 331-9255. We have Lawrence Maxwell on the board handling our calls. So if anybody's got any questions or opinions about this budget, about the mental health situation in Ulster County, about the sales tax revenue, about anything else concerning the county budget, come on, give us a call, 331-9255.
There were, I think, 7 county legislators there out of 23. The biggest, just to kind of wrap this up a little bit, the biggest ticket item on his agenda was $16.5 million to build what amounts to a mental health building. He's apparently taking mental health out of wherever it was, Golden, and it'll be a walk-in mental health facility. If a person has some kind of a problem, they can take them right there. They'll have staff 24/7. He's apparently really addressing this thing in a very aggressive way.
We got a call.
Okay.
So good morning, caller.
Good morning, gentlemen. How are we doing this morning?
We are doing well. We were just discussing the county budget and $350 million in expenditures and of your tax money and mine. And
you got that right. My question is, in the paper was saying where they had 125 jobs that wasn't filled over the past year, and they want to bring them back. My thing is, okay, if they haven't been filled for the past year, so how many of them is really needed? They really ought to look at which ones need to come back and which ones does not need to come back. That would be a savings right there. And just because you are anticipating all of this revenue coming in doesn't mean you have to spend it all or jack your budget up so that it shows where you do spend it all. There's nothing wrong with blowing the taxes on the people who have to pay the taxes either.
Exactly.
Yeah, this is a full employment budget based on the 2019 workforce. He's adding, as you say, caller, adding back. There was 125 people county employees who took
early retirement.
Early
retirement.
Early retirement
on.
And another group, I think it adds up to around 300 or maybe 200. Quite a few people. But your point, I think, is well taken. The opportunity to trim back county government, which Mike Hine, the previous executive, did primarily by selling the infirmary. That's where most of those numbers came from.
Yeah.
But no, I think we have a guns and butter budget coming out.
So your opinion is that they should review these because they've managed to get by without these 125 folks for a year, and was there ever any review to determine whether and how effective they were and how necessary they were?
Right, and you take in the cost between their salaries, their health benefits, and the future retirement. That's one heck of a saving for every job that they do not have to add back on.
Absolutely.
And how many times have you seen them out on, like, the transportation department, highway department out leaning on shovels when you got 8, 9 people on a job that only takes 2 or 3?
Yeah,
and,
well...
you go by that all the time when you drive the roads and stuff.
Yeah, that's always a common, problem on most
common
public works jobs.
Yeah, are easy. Yeah. I don't know. Right. I've seen those guys working. It doesn't look that easy to me.
No. You see those downtimes where somebody's trying to figure out what that hose that's leaking all over the place. What did they just hit? While they were digging.
Your hose.
Yeah, and all the lights went out in the neighborhood, and everybody's sitting around trying to figure out, okay,
oops,
now what?
Yeah, but like I said, hey, they did without them for a whole year, those 125 jobs, so maybe at least 2/3 of them may be necessary to be refilled, but that 1/3 is
exactly
one giant tax saving for the people who actually pay their taxes.
Yep, and that absolutely should have been a consideration. There's nothing wrong with lowering our taxes. They seem to be. It seems to be this is how much money we have to spend, and we're going to spend it all. Versus let's see what we can do about giving some of these senior citizens and other folks living on fixed income some tax breaks here by just lowering their taxes. You're a great point, caller, and thank you for the call.
I get the impression in review. Now the budget's out online today, and people can pull it up and make their own judgments. But that the county, I think, is swimming in cash.
Oh yeah,
I don't think there's any doubt about that. Here's this wasn't announced, but during a brief press conference, the executive was asked how much fund balance is he applying toward this zero tax increase, and the answer was quite surprising. About $4.5 million.
Wow, nothing.
Exactly, zero, almost nothing.
Yeah.
He's got a $25 million fund balance, and typically, Mario, you were a legislator.
Yeah.
They would put $10 million, $15, $20 million.
Yeah, you would deplete it pretty good to keep the tax rate down.
Keep the tax rate down. Well, he doesn't have to do that in this budget. I hope it's not a house of cards, because things could turn bad again. He referred to the third phase of the pandemic. It's kind of an interesting perception that and he also talked about something else. He talked about what he saw, because he gets around. It's his job to meet a lot of people and get out to events and all that.
Yeah.
And it goes with the job. He thinks the attitude of people has changed about the pandemic. He didn't say why. Maybe because longevity. It's been a while. That in the beginning, he said there was a sense of everybody being in this together. That we had this problem and we were going to fix it. And he said he doesn't see that as much now. Now, it might be pandemic weariness or fatigue, that people are just tired of being under these controls, and they don't really see an end in sight.
Yeah.
It isn't like the vaccination rate in Ulster is higher than the state rate. It's about 82%.
Wow.
Yeah, which is pretty good. But now they're vaccinating for the new for the third phase, which is what's that? The
booster?
No, not the booster. The
Delta variant.
The Delta variant.
Yep.
And so there is that hanging over us.
So let me ask another question. Did anybody address the IDA situation?
No,
the
not
Kia.
a word.
The torpedo that was launched at the folks, these poor business people who were caught in the middle of this major league power struggle, and nothing was mentioned about that, huh?
No. Why don't you elaborate a little bit more on what the Kia issue is?
So for those of you listening, turns out the IDA approved a tax incentive plan for
pilot
for the Romeo Kia car dealership. They're located in Kingston right now, but they own property in the town of Ulster. They own a dealership out there, and they had plans to build on it, and they were held up by the fact that there was a breeding pair of bald eagles about 500 feet from the construction site. So they were required to wait until the eaglets had fledged. The eaglets
had flown.
And at that point, for some reason, the county executive had to sign off on the plan.
Well, the reason he signs off is under statute. This is what they call a deviated pilot, which is in the standard pilot, obviously not the standard pilot. So if there is a deviated pilot, they want another layer of review, which is the county executive.
Okay, so we have a call. Good morning, caller.
Good morning.
And what would you like to discuss with us this morning?
Well, we could start with the pilot for Kia, but I was really calling about the budget. It looks to me like he's running a shortfall of about $38 million. If you take out the $5 million that he's taken out of the surplus and the $34 million that the government's given him in a one-time grant, he's $38 million short, and then he's dependent on an increase in sales tax which is a very regressive tax, and it's only going up because of the inflationary cost of most of the taxable goods and services that the poor people around here really need. Lumber, groceries, what have you.
Yeah. That $38 million, I think, is going to be bounced around a little bit. I asked him directly after his presentation how much federal and/or state money was going in to balance his budget, and he said none. And I said, "What about the $38 million?"
The reporting says $34.5 million.
34.5, yeah.
COVID grants, whatever you want to call them, and then $4 million from the surplus. So we don't know how much the surplus is, but we know it's more. I think you have to keep 5% in the surplus.
That's $15 million.
Yeah, so we're going to take 4 out,
actually.
so now that leaves you with 11 or thereabouts. But the fact is, he's running a $40 million deficit.
Okay. So what do we do about that?
Well, I guess, like the gentleman before this said, you don't hire another 125 people. You got to realize, if you look at the city budget, which itemizes hospitalization for every family hospitalization plan, it costs the city about $30,000.
Yeah.
So 30,000 times, we'll say 100 employees is what, 3 or 4 million? I'd have to get my calculator out. There's so many zeros involved.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. It's $3 million.
So, I mean, now I cut the budget already by 10% with just eliminating the adding of these jobs. We're not out to put people out of work, but if you can't afford them, you can't afford them.
Yeah, good point.
And I mean, the Kia thing, we all know that's you've got Holiday Inn out there on 9W. They've got a pilot. Caremark, which is a healthcare unit, 4-story building, they've got a $40 million pilot out there. So the whole street is full of pilots, and Lowe's and Home Depot, they've reduced the taxes. You're taking the IBM property off the tax rolls, and now the tenants leave moving out. So, this is not the way to be running a finance show, but that's what the people want.
I'm not sure the people want it. It's...
That's what they're getting.
But that's what they're getting. Yeah. Well, listen, those are very good points, and certainly we appreciate that call. It sounds like there were a lot of considerations about
and nobody's helping to try to get the landlords and the tenants their money that's sitting up in the state from the Employee Rent Stabilization Act.
Sense of segue.
And by the way, Nightline ran a show on that last night. New York is last, and the money may be running out because the government can pull it back today if it's not being spent. And we're last in the country to get the thing moving along, and we all know the story there, but it's only hearsay in another newspaper that things are changing.
Yeah.
I doubt if that money's going to be pulled out. The federal government seems to be on a spending spree.
I doubt it too, but they got to do something to get the money for the infrastructure, so they could.
Yeah.
Well, there may be a change in leadership there.
So, anyhow, that's it. I've spoken my piece. You can take it from there if you want.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, caller.
We will take it from there. So, the first thing, let's kind of. I think we want to get into the Office of Temporary
Assistance, et cetera.
Yeah. But before we do that, I think we should conclude this discussion about the Kia. So, essentially, the word on the street, and speaking to folks who seem to know what's going on, and one of them was actually quoted in the Freeman, one of the members of the IDA board, and this guy completely unloaded on the executive's office, essentially claiming that they wanted to bring control of the IDA within the House and have it controlled by the economic development group within the county. So, first off, I served on the IDA back in the dark ages, but I did serve for 5 years. They were 5-year terms.
Was it before you were a legislator or after?
After. When I left the legislature, they asked me to, I can't remember who, but somebody asked if I wouldn't mind. There was an opening on the board. I sat on, and I was I was a little concerned about some of the projects that were coming in. So, because again, some of these projects really don't create jobs, and the whole idea behind this, and of course, what was explained to me is sometimes you do this to keep companies, even keep the current level, by helping companies, local companies, expand and work within the community, and you retain jobs. So some of it is to create new jobs, and some of it is to retain jobs. So we had some discussions. I remember. I have it laying around someplace. I was the subject of an editorial when I was on the IDA.
I may have written it.
No. It wasn't. It was. You guys missed it, but the Poughkeepsie Journal picked it up.
All right.
So I was the subject of.
What did they say about you?
Well, I was insisting on getting a better deal for the county, and I held out and persuaded the IDA board to insist on a better deal, and we got another $25,000 in taxes out of it. And at the time, that was real money. That was in the early '80s, and that was a lot more than I was getting paid. So it was a good return on investment. But yeah, I know what's to a certain extent what's going on. I think the IDA has maybe become a little more political. When the Democrats took over, they got rid of the Republicans that were, I don't think that kind of stuff helps, because it takes a while to develop some expertise when you're sitting on that board to understand all the various moving parts and things of that nature. But I did obtain a copy of the letter. So one of the big arguments was that the county exec wanted to convene a meeting of the IDA board and the County Economic Development Alliance, whatever that is. I don't honestly know what it is, but it's some sort of a group or whatever within the county government, and then some legislators in his office, whatever. And they essentially wanted to put in some new rules for the IDA that gave the County Economic Development Alliance or the Economic Development Office of the County Executive kind of veto power, or some sort of veto power or review of the IDA board. So it took away all the independence of the board, number one, because they're supposed to be above politics. But more importantly, the act that occurred was hardcore politics at its best.
Or worst.
Or its worst, yeah. Because what happened, and this is where I think Ulster County is going to pay handsomely. He made signing off on the Kia deal contingent upon the IDA essentially surrendering their independence to the county executive's office.
That's in that letter?
It isn't in the letter. It's implied. But the folks on the IDA have implied also that he made it very clear that he wasn't signing off on this project unless they signed off on his plan to essentially convert his economic development czar into, giving them oversight over the IDA's.
Mario, you mentioned oversight. I'd like to inject a few comments here. By statute, this IDA is appointed by the legislature, as you mentioned, and they have oversight through their economic development committees, et cetera, through the legislature. I think the legislature typically has failed to exercise oversight over a long period of time, and that the IDA has kind of grown or evolved pretty much on its own by the board members that the legislature appoints. So that's a failing, I think. They have a responsibility. You look at, you mentioned the latest example, the Kia relocation. I don't see county legislators stepping up and offering their comments or their insight into this situation. It's their baby, and yet they reject any notion of somebody actually doing it, which would be, now I'll play devil's advocate here. As George Steinbrenner used to say about the Yankees, first I look at the standings. And the standings on economic development in this county are miserable. And you mentioned 4 or 5 agencies that were at this meeting, and they're spinning.
He's proposing.
Yeah, and another agency spinning their wheels. There's too many cooks in this kitchen, and too little results. Everything that this budget is based on comes down to jobs. Yep. If we have a strong, and the executive insists yesterday at his budget presentation that we're back, Ulster County is booming. I don't know. I want to see that. It's more than just overpriced residential real estate that's creating this boom, and I'm not in favor of expanded executive power, because the last executive authority over anything for that matter, the last executive took care of that, but somebody's got to be in charge. Somebody's got to be accountable. Somebody's got to be transparent, and none of that is happening. And somebody's got to get results. What are the goals here? If there's 60,000 jobs in as I understand in Ulster County, and maybe 20,000 of them are those kind of good-paying, benefit-producing, et cetera, jobs, as they say, that you can support a family. Even one wage earner, although there's mostly 2 these days, that you could support a family on. That's the goal. And if you've got 60,000 now, how about a goal that says, let's shoot for 70,000 next in 5 years or something? Yeah. They're goalless. They can just go on from year to year to year. Different directors, different executives, and at the end you look up. I think this county, this is the other side of a budget presentation. I think this county can be seen as kind of treading water. Our population did not increase, and I think it went down a few thousand people. And if you're in a community that's not is not growing, it's almost by definition. I wouldn't say by definition. It could be seen as failing. It's not making progress. Yeah. It's not growing, and this comes down to these economic development schemes. Go across the border. You could drive 10 miles into Greene County. Now, this is your specialty. Yep. I think we absolutely missed the boat on those Greene County warehouse projects up there. Tens of millions of dollars.
They spent millions creating shovel-ready sites. And today, the biggest issue in New York State with creating a business is siting and permitting. Okay, that can take years. Well,
yes.
Look at the Kingstonian. Years. Look at the project out in Shandaken. 20 years?
Decades.
Trying to get something done. So the biggest drawback to a company doing something in New York State is the permitting process. So when you create a shovel-ready site, you take all of that out of the picture. You preordain a site to be ready to be built on. companies, that saves companies millions. That alone is worth the price of poker. And we don't have, as far as I understand, we don't have a shovel-ready site. We have dilapidated buildings. We have sites that, Tech City being one of them, where there probably could be a lot of progress made. Now they've put it out for offers again and bids. But, sometimes you take the lead by doing it, not asking other people to do it for you. We have all of that land by the Thruway, those farms going down 209, that in just about any other place where you have a Thruway exit, when we're blessed, we got 3 of them.
Yeah.
Where they take the land by, that's what they did in Greene County, the Coxsackie Thruway exit. They took all this farmland just at that exit, and they've built one building after the other, created one group of jobs after the other, and that site sits there, and I don't know, we're growing hemp. I don't even know what they're growing there, but it's certainly not creating very many jobs, and these were some of the, I believe, obvious choices that were completely missed by the County Economic Development Office. Yet, they're so out to lunch that 6 months ago, or whatever, they were touting farm to table, moving into the new building.
That was the key to
front
the whole
page,
thing.
They were the anchor. The company's going out of business. I mean, how did you miss that? Did somebody not, is somebody in the quote-unquote economic development office unable to read a profit and loss statement? I mean, how do you go from these people are going to create 50 or 60 new jobs, they're going to rent 50,000 square feet of space, they're going to do this, they're going to do that, to, oh, by the way, 6 months later, we're closing up and we're gonna become a food truck. I mean, hello.
Come on, you're piling on now. Take it easy.
No, I'm talking about if this is what they're and this is the group that he wants to turn over the IDA to. He wants them to have oversight over the IDA. Are you kidding me? They haven't proven themselves. They haven't demonstrated that they have the ability to even create one job in Ulster County. We're way behind everybody else. And that's his office, and those are his people, and what he's saying is, well, we need to have more control. It sounds to me this is all about controlling the process and not actually accomplishing anything.
Well, if you control the process, making headlines. If you control the process, you damn well better show some results and be held accountable.
There's nothing to prevent the County Economic Development Group from showing some results, except they're unable to. Now, my biggest problem, okay, and then we're going to wrap this up, but my biggest problem is you don't hold a private business who has gone through the entire process and spent $1 million. They had to hire a biological engineer to watch the eaglets fledge. I mean, you got to be kidding me. And they've spent all of this money, and you decide, oh boy, if you don't do what I want, I'm not going to sign off on that project? Oh my God, that is disgusting. And I'm done.
Well, thank you for your comments. And we move on. This is kind of a wrap up. I don't know what we're going to fill for the next hour, Catalano.
We got plenty.
All right, you say so. If you say so, that's a line from the Bible. You say so. Word on the street, as you like to call it. I don't get out on the street as often as I used to. But word in my front yard, where everybody stops when I'm trying to work on my lawn and chats, that former county executive Mike Hine will formally leave office at that office of, what do you call it, temporary assistance?
Yeah, some sort of temporary commission on.
Temporary commission. I was intrigued by the Freeman's coverage, belatedly, of this
lack of coverage.
Yeah, well, initially, I don't take a lot of credit for breaking stories, but this one I was ahead of it, I think, and we reported Monday that Hine was being dismissed from his job or had resigned. In any case, was leaving, and the sound of silence from the Freeman was deafening. And eventually caught up with Hine, apparently, and they did an interview, which was kind of curious. I have it in front of me. It wasn't exactly clear what he was doing or not doing, or where he was going or staying.
Coming or going. We're still trying to figure out what's
going
on
really,
here.
Really exactly sure.
Yeah.
This is only speculation on my part, but I think the primary goal of that story was to discount the previous story, the one that he was gone.
Yeah.
I mean, and he, to me, the red flag, as it were, or the real indicator was that while he didn't say anything about being dismissed, he did talk about his job in the past tense. Now, if the guy had the job and he had been given a vote of confidence by the governor, he would have spoken to the future. We're gonna roll this money out. Someone else pointed out one of the people on the street, as it were, pointed out a political component to this, or perhaps a political component of this I hadn't considered on the gubernatorial level. Kathy Hochul has declared that she's running for governor next year or 2 years.
Yes, yeah, next year.
Is it next year or 2 years?
22.
All right. Next year.
Yeah.
No, I think it's an odd year, Mara. Cuomo was elected in 11, 15, 19, 23.
23. Okay.
She got a year and a half to go.
Oh, she got a year and a half.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in 23. So there's
kick some butt.
Yeah, there's plenty of room to maneuver, and who services, and Attorney General Letitia James, who literally drove the nail into Cuomo's coffin, is being rather coy, as politicians tend to be, about her intentions. But yet she's popping up in a lot of places we didn't see her before. So okay, that's part of the dance. But it would appear now that there's maybe a three-way race with this Jamal Williams.
Jumani,
excuse me. Jumani Williams has his hat in the ring, and he's a pretty hard-driving guy.
Yep.
I think he's a public advocate in New York now, which has been a stepping stone.
Sure.
For, among others, de Blasio.
I believe that's what she did.
She did, de Blasio.
Yeah.
So there's at least a three-way race going on. Now, Hochul, I think, is in the Jaybird seat. She is the governor, and she has the opportunity to do things that the other two would only dream of. The notion, this is interesting, I think, as this person pointed out to me, fairly politically savvy person, pointed out that in order to in order for Hochul to counter the Attorney General's power in New York City, now Hochul is seen as an upstate governor.
Absolutely,
and she is. She's as far west as you can get. I think
Buffalo.
She can put her toe in Lake Erie. She's seen as an upstate. Now we upstaters have our downstate. We have our prejudices against those people from New York forever. So I think since the Revolutionary War, and vice versa. Yep. I was sort of taken aback when I was in New York some years ago and talking to some people and politicians. I was on assignment doing something, and they referred to us in much the same manner, and rather contemptibly. Those we're rubes.
You remember, of course, Ed Koch, the gubernatorial nomination.
Yep.
Remember when his
calico dresses and gun racks in the back of trucks?
Gingham dresses from Sears.
Yeah.
Yep.
So there's that going on. So that's eternal, and it'll be here long after we're gone. But Hochul, in order to shore up her New York City base, as it were, the constituency, this upstate candidate has to appeal to New York City in a very profound way.
Absolutely.
And the appeal, this might be a stretch, but the appeal is that most of the people who are served by this program, putting aside the renters and the landlords, most of whom live in the city, are primarily or a majority are a minority people, and that to have it. I hate to get into this race stuff, but it seems everywhere now in politics. For her to retain an upstate white guy to run a program that services, for the most part, downstate minority people, what she needs politically is to put a dynamic person in there. Presumably, I wouldn't be surprised if she could lure Jamal. What's his name? Jamani over there. He might be good at it to move this program forward, and that's a possibility. That unfortunately, it wasn't Hines' incompetence in not moving this money out to the people who so desperately needed it. It was a political decision.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure why the money didn't get moved, but quite honestly, this is the Empire State. We have incredible resources. You're having a problem moving this money. There was some indication in one of the previously written articles that there were problems with the input, the site that was taking the information. You know, there were a number of issues with that. And, I mean, you just got to fix them. You got to have this is all hands on deck type of a scenario. And you know what? The bottom line is it didn't get done. And I don't think Kathy Hochul has the kind of wiggle room that Cuomo had. You know, she's got to demonstrate
very quickly
that she's in charge. And I don't think Mike's the only head that's going to roll. I think you know.
Zucker's gone.
It's gonna look like a damn bowling alley up there, you know, with
it's good imagery. Man.
Yeah,
like
with you know, heads rolling down the lane.
Stop it. Pins
anyway, we have a caller. A good morning, caller. You're you're on with Kingston Community Radio, Catalano and Reynolds. What's going on?
Yeah, good morning, gentlemen. Good morning. I just wanted to comment on Mr. Hine, and just to get your opinion. I think that he's absolutely accountable, even if there is whatever system glitch. This is a pandemic. This was housing, a lot of money that was made available, that was needed. Housing's, you know, arguably the number one thing that people need. It didn't happen. In any other situation, the person helming the ship is helming the ship. And my question is, regardless of how Mr. Hine exits or what the explanation is, does this accountability stick with him? And where does he land? Does he potentially get another gig in state government and just move to another spot? Could he land back in Ulster County in some way? How much can this impact him? Regardless of the explanation he might provide, is this something that really will stick with him in terms of accountability? This is a historic period of time, and lives have really been affected. So just wanting to ask that question. Thank you.
Good question, caller. Thanks.
I'm going to defer to you on that as the political guru here.
Oh, guru. The guru says that there's a couple of factors. Hine is he's independent in the sense of financially independent. He owned a lot of properties in Kingston, which he built up over the years. I don't know how. I think it was more than 10 units.
Oh, okay.
It was, for Kingston, it was, something, and which he sold when he went to Albany, and for substantial sums. There was a very good market, There was a lot of attrition on those properties, and the published figure was around $1 million. So that's before taxes, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
But still, that's as you say, that's not hay. And the other was that, Andrew Cuomo was in a similar situation in terms of his campaign war chest. The numbers are vastly different, but the same rules apply. These people can pretty much use that money in any way they see fit. And by fair calculation, in fact, I actually had a conversation with Hein about how much money he had left in his war chest. He raised over $1 million in campaign contributions over 10 years as county executive, and he spent no more than $300,000 of it. And on campaigns.
Yeah.
He spent a fair amount on other people's campaigns, which is allowable too.
Yep.
So
he might have a couple of IOUs out there.
Or he could create a lot of IOUs out there.
All right. Yeah.
Money well placed. So I think he's probably a millionaire, and that's okay. Good for him. So there's that. There is, however, his state pension, which he's got about 15 years in the system. At 20 years, state pensioners hit their what they call vested limit, and it's based on 3 years of the highest salary. His highest salary was not his county executive salary, which was $133,000. It was this particular job, this last job, which was $220,000.
And that was for what, about a year and a half?
No, that was for 2.5 years.
Oh, so
the top 3 years.
Yeah.
So that's plugged in. That's a substantial base for him. So, but if he can get to 20, it would go up considerably because it's based on time and grade. And and the amount. So whether he, as the caller suggested, whether he has, although with his administrative record it might be difficult, Hochul appoints him to some other job. It doesn't have to be $220,000 just to keep him in the system for 3 years or 4 years. That would accrue to him. Whether he comes back, he's still not 60 years old yet. I think he's 58. Whether he comes back to Ulster County and seeks public office, I would think I don't think Mike Hines is a guy that's going to run for town supervisor.
No.
So I think, and I don't see him getting appointed by the county executive, who doesn't even mention his name.
Yeah. In
conversation, he's known as the predecessor. I don't see Pat Ryan appointing him to any county office, even though he might be competent at that level. He may have reached his level of incompetence in Albany, but there is the outside shot of Pat Ryan's up for re-election in 23, I think. Mm-hmm. He's up for re-election for a third term.
So, possibly
and a primary.
A primary, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That could happen. That would be a gunfight. So caller Hein has a lot of possibilities. He has a lot of options. He can literally do nothing, play golf, which he's very good at, and which he played a lot of golf during his tenure in Albany. We're told by eyewitnesses and so forth. So speculation will continue. There may be an official announcement today on his status.
Yeah, it's the end of the month, and it's the end of the week, and who knows?
Yeah, the end of the week is more.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I keep looking for a place for this guy to go, and boy, I just can't find one. I absolutely cannot find one. You have an assemblyman who is not going anywhere. I think, he's not going to be able to challenge Kevin Cahill, although, that's an option. He's got state senators, and depending on how they draw up the districts, that are not going anywhere. He lives in Hinchy's district now. It becomes Martucci's district. Maybe he decides to run for state senate. Who knows?
I don't think he runs against Hinchy.
No, not against Hinchy, but maybe against Martucci. And
he lives in Hurley, which is
that's Hinchy's district. But we don't know what the redistricting is going to look like. So I'm not sure he can run for anything. I don't know if he is progressive enough. The Democratic Party in Ulster County has taken a major league left turn, and I think he was old school. Well, he was a Republican.
That's old school.
Yeah, well, he was a Republican in Democrats' clothing because that's what he needed to do to win. But he was too conservative, I believe, for the current Democratic Party to even think about nominating this guy. Congress, but again, you got two Democratic congressmen. So I don't see any place for him to go there. And who's going to hire him? He kind of wore out his welcome on the state. Is maybe Hinchy gets him a job at some high level in the Senate for a couple of years, because those jobs are available. I mean, there's a lot of patronage that gets doled out in Ulster County. If you look at many of the political players in Ulster County who are working in Albany, there are some jobs where he doesn't need much. He could have a part-time.
He could be $1 a day.
Yeah, $25,000 a year type, consultant to the Democratic majority, and if anything, that's where I see him going, just to get his time in, because these folks have no problem raiding the Treasury to make sure they all get their pensions. That's the whole gig, is pension. I remember when I was chairman, a Republican coming to me who had put in, I think it was 18 and a half years. The person who came to me was a multi-millionaire, but a former county legislator, and wanted me to find them a no-show job just to get their time in so that they could collect a pension of about $2,000 a year, or whatever it is, $3,000 a year. And this person could have bought the Ulster County office building. Okay, and this pension stuff is ridiculous, and I see him probably getting a lift in that regard. I wouldn't be surprised.
Do health benefits go with a pension on the state level?
That I don't.
If they do, that's a real bump.
That's
$30,000 right there.
I'm not sure. I know some of the towns pay health benefits.
Let's save reapportionment for the next segment, because there's some interesting stuff going on behind the scenes that's starting to bubble to the surface.
Absolutely, and we're coming to a break, and of course then we're going to do birthdays.
Give the number, will you?
Yeah, this is Kingston Community Radio, folks, 331-9255. Give us a shout. We're here today, and we are rocking.
You're listening to Kingston Community Radio on WGHQ Kingston. On your radio at 920 AM and 92.5 FM, and also online at mykcr.org.
Introducing the YMCA. Sure, you know the Y for a swim or a game of hoops, but we're more than that. We're a cause. When you take a jump shot at the Y, someone else is getting job training, practice yoga, as a teen practices her leadership skills. We give people of all ages, incomes, and backgrounds a chance to learn, grow, and thrive. So while you might think of the Y as the place for lifting weights, we're also about lifting entire communities. That's the Y. We're so much more. Visit ymca.net/more.
This is the story of Daniel, who was born 2 months early. His lungs weren't ready. His heart wasn't ready. His parents could only hope that one day he would leave the hospital healthy, and they would all live happily ever after. Daniel's is just one of the more than 500,000 stories of babies born prematurely last year. You can help the March of Dimes stop premature birth and bring more babies home healthy. Learn how at marchofdimes.com. Working together for stronger, healthier babies.
Question: what will you find on all over-the-counter or OTC medicine packages to help you choose the right drug and use it safely? The answer? The Drug Facts label. This label lists the medicine's active ingredients and purpose, how much to take, and warnings you should know before using it. Remember, even OTC medicines you buy without a prescription can cause side effects you don't want. So follow the information listed on the Drug Facts label. For more information, visit fda.gov/Drug Facts label. A message from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
Hi, I'm Kelsey Grammer. Wounded Warrior Project supports injured veterans by connecting them with fellow warriors, by serving them through mental health and wellness programs, and by empowering them to live on their own terms. No one should face a battle alone. Join us at woundedwarriorproject.org.
At St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, we're fighting against childhood cancer every day. At the heart of this battle are our donors.
Most of us want to make some type of difference in the lives of others. St. Jude does miraculous work.
The fact that no one has to pay, it's a place where everyone is treated as an equal.
Everybody is welcome here, and it doesn't matter your religion or what part of the world you're from, all that is taken away. It just gives you some hope.
It's just a nice feeling to put your energy into something that really does genuinely make a difference in a child's life.
There's just no greater gift. If we have the ability to help, then we have a responsibility to help.
Finding cures, saving children. St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Find out how you can help at stjude.org.
Hi, this is Tony Marmo from Norman Staffing, and we've been bringing together employers and job seekers since 1980. If you're an employer and have job vacancies, let Norman Staffing help fill them with permanent or temporary workers. We screen, interview, and recommend the best candidates for your company. We make the employment process easier and faster for you. Please call Norman Staffing for your employment needs at 338-9111, 338-9111, or normanstaffing.com.
Hi, I'm Ruth Quick from Town of Ulster. I support Kingston Community Radio, and you should too.
This portion of Kingston Community Radio is brought to you by Ulster Savings Bank. Visit their newest branch, conveniently located at the Ulster Commons Plaza in Lake Katrine. Experience the difference that local community banking offers with the convenience of another great location, easy access, plenty of parking, and a 24-hour ATM. Ulster Savings Bank, invested in community, invested in you. Member FDIC.
Okay, we are back at Kingston Community Radio. Our number here, 331-9255. You're here with Hugh Reynolds, Mario Catalano. Every other Friday, we talk politics. Anyway, but before we start talking politics, our favorite time of the day is birthdays. And today is a great day in birthday land. We have five birthdays to announce today. So let me get my glasses so I can read the names. October 1st, happy birthday to Teresa Pesky. From love from your family and card-playing friends. Enjoy a marvelous day. Happy birthday, Teresa. We have a birthday today for Gail DeSico. and that is happy birthday from your friends at the Friendship Bible Coffee. Gail, happy birthday. And we have a happy birthday to Sandy Gregory from your friends at the Hurley Pearlers. Sandy, happy birthday. We have a happy first birthday to Ivy Torres from Mom, Dad, brothers, and sister. Ivy, happy birthday, honey.
Goo-goo.
Yes, wonderful. And we have a happy birthday to Rose Overton from your friends at the Lunch-A-Bunchers. So those are the contestants. Those are the birthday ladies. They were all ladies today. And the winner is Teresa Pesky. Teresa, happy birthday. And you are the winner of the famous Boyce Dairy Milk House cow pie, which may be picked up at the Boyce Dairy Milk House, 62 O'Neill Street in Kingston, New York. And that comes to you courtesy of the Kingston Community Radio team and the Boyce Dairy Milk House. Teresa, congratulations. Enjoy your cow pie. We do not have any birthdays for Saturday or Sunday, but October 1st was a busy day in birthday land. So, great. Let's move on. So, you, I have a big question for you, and we're on a new subject now, but
attention.
I have a quick question for you. Tell me about this bicycle situation on Broadway. We've had 3 people die by bicycle in the city of Kingston.
Death by bicycle.
Death by bicycle. The prevailing opinion from the chief executive's office is this is because the Common Council turned down his $35,000 educational program. So here's my question. How do you educate folks? How do you educate a bicyclist to not run into a truck? I mean, the last person to die was hit by a truck. What part of the educational process makes that work? All right, that $35,000 that, in my opinion, we're about to waste. How does that affect? Do you teach bicyclists to watch out for vehicles? I mean, why would you have to do that? Do you teach vehicles to watch out for bicyclists? We have, every weekend, we are inundated with folks from out of town. How do you train them or teach them exactly what is going to happen here with this money that you're aware of? And is the answer really an educational program, or is that let's put a little lipstick on this pig and try and make it look like, a movie star? I mean, tell me, I'm absolutely on wit's end the way they redesigned. And by the way, I don't even think bicycles are the biggest problem. I think we're going to lose more car doors from people opening their car doors into moving traffic than anything. I think people are going to get hit by cars because there's no room. They got parking out in the middle of the road. What used to be the right lane is now the parking lane. Hello? God, fire that engineer or whoever the hell designed it. So talk to me.
Some years ago, I was on television with Brian Kinney, who was a local broadcaster who's gone on to a very successful career. I think he's with
ESPN.
He was with Major League Baseball, and now he's with ESPN. So he's
big boxing guy.
Yeah, we should be very proud of Brian, and it was a call-in show,
Yep.
and like this is supposed to be. I think we've had 2 calls.
Three.
Oh, excuse me. That's a 50% increase, isn't it? He had a clock at the studio at TZA at that time. They had a clock in front of so we could look at it. The camera was this direction, obviously. And Brian asked, as you did, he prefaced the question. He said, Hugh, what do you think about XYZ? And before I could open my mouth, Brian went on and I clocked it, for 17 minutes.
Wow.
A straight monologue. And then finally he finished. He took a deep breath and he said, and so what do you think? And I said, Brian, I think you've said it all. And having said that, I think we're getting a little bit ahead of the curve here. The street itself is dangerous, and it's proven to be deadly dangerous. They never should have designed this system in the first place. Now, I don't know who the hell they were. Aldermen, mayors, consultants, maybe state officials, because there's money involved. So they tend to, when the state gives money, they tend to control it, and you run through review processes and so forth and so on. I understand some of these streetscapes, as they call them now, are popular in other places and maybe even successful, and maybe people aren't getting killed on these streetscapes. The whole idea, as I can see it, was to promote biking on our thoroughfare. There happens to be a walking trail, maybe 100 yards parallel to Broadway, which I've walked on, and we could walk on that.
Yeah.
It's a nice path. It's pretty easy. It's not hilly. It's central. It's Central Broadway. That apparently wasn't enough. That was put together for several $1 million, and this is modeled on the Greenkill Avenue redo for bikes,
which is just as crazy.
It's as crazy. Yes, it's the same model. A man was killed there. A 50-year-old. I think was he a teacher? That the victim.
Yeah.
He was killed there. We had Andrea Shout, the older woman at large, a few weeks ago, months ago now.
2 weeks ago, sure.
And we asked her about that, and she said that she can't speak to it because the city's being sued. Well, the city's going to be sued on both of these cases, and nobody's going to speak to it. I think what they need on Broadway is a can of paint.
Yeah, you're right.
Get out there with black paint and paint out some of this crazy middle of the street parking, no curb parking, bike paths that kind of end. I mean, I guess so you get to the end of the bike path and you wheel your bike across the street and then ride back to where you came from. It's just nuts. And again, it's
bike path to nowhere.
Exactly. And it is. I will say Broadway, for the first time in about almost 30 years, has been repaved, and they've done a pretty good job on the paving. I'll give them that. And, long overdue.
It's the lines that you don't like.
So it's the lines that divide us. And I got used to, while this work was underway, I got used to going alternate routes, staying off Broadway and staying away from that.
Yeah.
That traffic circle, I won't get down on the traffic circle yet, but I go through it very cautiously on the occasions when I have to, like if I go west.
I saw a near miss there just the other day.
Yeah, I've seen a few. People come out of nowhere. You don't see them. It's probably going to be. I don't think it's going to be terribly expensive to do a do-over and reclaim Broadway into a 4-lane road with parking. I don't know if there's anymore a Central Broadway Business Persons Association that looks out for the business interests of the few businesses left on Broadway, but they don't seem to be.
They got to be getting killed.
They lost a lot of their parking.
Yeah, they lost their parking, and not only their parking, but the person who's parking now has to park out in a road And when you open, I mean, you can open your door, and you're opening that door into a driving lane. It's so tight.
Well, I think they did that before. In fact, there may be a state law about I think there is a state law about opening your door into traffic.
How are you going to get out of the car?
Well, with the old bench seats, you could slide right across. So there's that. You kind of throw your hands up. What can be done? I don't know.
And there's another thing too, that I've traveled extensively on business, and when I get to a city, mainly in the South, where bike lanes are popular because they can ride bikes all year round, there are always bicycle racks. There are places to park your bike. Let's say you wanted to go to Hannaford in Kingston Plaza, and you wanted to take your bike from Midtown Kingston and take your bike up there. There's no place to park your bike, to chain it, or to, a bike rack or whatever. So the whole thing seems to be very ill-conceived. Let's say you wanted to take your bike rack to Uptown. You got to find a pillar someplace, and you got to tie it off someplace. And then even there, I'm not sure there are bike lanes uptown. I think you're on the sidewalk up there, or maybe there are bike lanes, or you're on the street. So you go from a bike lane to the street to where can you park? I'm really very disappointed. I mean, I think it's notable that they want to have folks travel by bike more, but there are a couple of issues here in the city of Kingston in terms of bikes. One is the hills. It's a very hilly community.
Yeah.
And you're not taking your bike from downtown unless, you're an Ironman contestant and getting up Delaware Avenue on a bike and then, to Midtown and then
Ward Street.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So there were so many contraindications to putting in these bike lanes. I'm just not sure. I think it was well-intentioned, but very poorly planned. And nobody stepped up to the plate and say, whoa, wait a second. This is not going to work. And now you got 3 dead people. There was one on Washington Avenue as well. You got 3 dead people, and that's very significant for 1 year in the city of Kingston to have 3 people killed on bikes.
I think the council's refusal or failure to appropriate a fairly small amount of money, $35,000, is just a dodge. But that said, bikers and motorists need to be very aware if they're on those roads that there is danger. I mean, I'm always watching for pedestrians. Some of those people just
when I'm on Greenkill, knowing that person was killed there, I frequently take that road to your house, and I have to make that turn. I'm panic stricken, because to be truthful with you, you can't see that person until they hit your car. They're coming down a hill. They probably are accelerating. It's very difficult to see where they are.
But as parents, we're parents, and we have grown children now and grandchildren. But as parents, we certainly educate our children intensely. We taught them how to ride bikes, and we taught them safety, and to be wearing helmets and all that. I don't see the government necessarily doing this, but we're in a different era now, and apparently no one's moving the changes. Now, when this goes to court, there will be substantial damages, I believe, and the city will be on the defensive. But a lot of this planning state, the plans and how the questions we raised, that you just raised, a rhetorical question. Yep. How the hell did they come up with this plan? Well, I think we're going to find out.
I think they're going to write a check before it ever gets to court. It's very embarrassing for the politicians to have to go to court to testify how inept they were. So, they usually put a little pressure on the insurance company to, An insurance company knows when they're licked. They're looking at this disaster. Yeah. Where are they going to get somebody to come in and testify that this was a good idea? That's going to be a tough one. Anyway, 331-9255. You're here at Kingston Community Radio with the two old guys who like to talk politics.
Well, let's talk about reapportionment. Ulster County has been for decades and decades pretty much the dumping ground for state Senate and Assembly reapportionment.
Absolutely.
We get pressure from both sides, from the north, from Albany and the Capital District, which is heavily populated, and then from the south, obviously, from Westchester on up.
So by way of background, this is the year we reapportion because we're working off of the 2020 census.
Yes.
And so we're going to have new districts.
Yes.
Some of them may change, some may not, but that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, every 10 years based on the census. Now, we have 4 state senators who represent Ulster County, a county of 180,000 people. A state Senate district is about 350,000 people. And we have three Assembly people in our county. So you would think with 7 or maybe it's 8, with 7 or 8 state representatives, we'd be well representative, but quite the opposite happens, with the exception of Cahill and maybe Hinchy.
Yeah.
The opposite happens.
Yeah.
The other 6 or so have only a small slice.
Yeah.
We haven't seen Martucci since we interviewed him.
Right.
The guy disappeared.
Yeah, well, most of his district is in Orange County.
Yeah, so he has no reason, political reason, as it were, to come up here. So,
and I think he's going to probably get moved into Orange County. I think they'll probably move Hinchy's district. You make it more of a...
Well, the old military axiom is that you reinforce victory. And Hinchy is going to be reinforced substantially, like her father was.
Yeah.
And from what I'm hearing about, there's 2 sets of maps going around, but the only one that counts is the one the Democrats, the majority in the Assembly and the Senate, which is unusual. Let me just finish this. That these Hinchy will be reinforced. She will get Rosendale, and she has Saugerties, so she'll get Rosendale, which is solid Democrat.
Right.
So that will enhance her majority, and that's smart politics. If you have the power, you exercise it, and everybody will attempt to act in their own self-interest, and the public be damned. It's called reapportionment.
Yeah, right. So what was interesting to me was we as a group, as an electorate, voted to have an independent commission.
Good point, yeah.
And it turns out that we didn't read the fine print, because if the commission doesn't agree, then the legislature gets to do what they've always done. So essentially...
And the commission's an even-numbered body.
It's an even-numbered body, so they made sure that there could never be a decisive decision, because 4 members, I believe, get appointed by the Dems, 4 by the Republicans, and those 8 select the 2 missing additional members. And of course, when they select them, they have to compromise, 1 on each side, whatever. Anyway, so it turns out that the Republicans and the Democrats each drew up their own reapportionment on this supposedly bipartisan commission. Total failure, intended to fail, so that the legislature could do what they've always done, and that is snooker the public. So they put this thing in. They make us believe that we actually have a bipartisan commission, and the truth of the matter is not even close. Not even close. And I just am so angry about being duped by these people. And what's even worse is nationally, there's this movement to not allow legislators in red states to reapportionment, and they're using New York State as an example of a bipartisan. Oh, you got to do what New York did, create a bipartisan commission. They obviously haven't read the fine print either, because we do not have a bipartisan commission to do anything. They have no power. As a matter of fact, the legislature refused to even fund them.
Yeah.
I mean, they had to be embarrassed by newspapers into funding this group of people. They got a late start. They never were able to work together for a minute. And there you be. So we will again have a districts that are essentially decided by the same group of people that always decided the districts, and so you can expect some significant gerrymandering, much to my disappointment, probably yours as well. But we're getting screwed once again.
And I think it's worth noting redistricting or reapportionment. I think to the average citizen is something that politicians do, and which it is. But it does have on the ground. It has an impact, and we have this kind of splintered representation now, which isn't very effective. Yeah. When our particular interests, Ulster County interests, are on the table, except again for two of them out of six. I don't know if Ulster County will ever go back to the days when it was a district unto itself or within a district that it wasn't carved up like an Easter ham.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure how that's going to work out, because the folks who are deciding this are not from Ulster County. And they're looking at these districts, and they're going to maybe fine-tune them, add, they're going to ask the legislators, are there any towns you'd like added in? What do you want us to do? How do you want us to do this? And then they're also going to put their maps together. They have, right now, using artificial intelligence, they can predict practically down to a street how many Republican and how many Democratic votes there are.
Oh, to a household. It's they're very sophisticated. I can recall assembly members and senators talking about sitting in a room on a big table with a map, and using a red pen to circle the district.
I remember when we reapportion and they're going to do it again this year. The legislative districts. This is going to be very interesting as well. But I
think is more democratic, though. That is a bipartisan.
I think it's much more bipartisan because
if there's a model in New York, I think it's ours. I'm being parochial.
Yeah.
It's the Ulster model that, and it seems it comes out fair. A few people get burned, and a few people make out, but by and large, people are satisfied with it. I'm hoping as part of that, maybe not necessarily as part, but as a result, that we reduce this legislature, which I think as a body is very ineffective, and I don't know, maybe it's illogical to think if there's fewer of them that they'll be more effective, but you'll be able to get some sense of who is responsible. They can hide in this herd. There's 23 of them, and you were there. You remember. There's a fair percentage that don't do anything at all. There's a small percentage that do most of the work.
Yeah.
Typically, the committee chairs, and then there's the rest that kind of go along.
Well, now speaking of the Ulster County Legislature, you and I are both intrigued by one of the races in the city of Kingston. And I'm not sure, is it the 6th district?
6th, yes.
The 6th district. So we have the chairman of the legislature, Dave Donaldson, gets knocked off in a Democratic primary.
Lifelong Democrat.
Lifelong Democrat, and I believe his brother was the city Democratic chairman.
Yeah.
And the family, I mean, they could erect monuments to the Democratic, and he gets knocked off by some completely unknown. The guy's got a phone number that's not even
518 something.
Yeah, a 518 phone number, which is the Albany area, and nobody can seem to reach him. And he knocks off Donaldson in the primary. Then we have a Republican steps up to the plate with a very well-known name and pedigree, and that is
Suzanne Timbrook.
Timbrook. I mean, the Timbrook family, extremely well-known in Kingston.
She's a school teacher, too.
And she's a school teacher.
Like Dave is, or was. Yeah.
So we have a three-way race. And this is so intriguing because, as they say, three-way race, anything can happen. Give me your thoughts on where that's all going to go, because I know that you're really close to what goes on in the city.
I think it is intriguing, and it's very unusual. I don't recall a three-way race like this for legislature. Sometimes you get a very minor party, unknown candidate with an axe to grind, that gets 5% of the vote. His friends and family vote for her, and that's the end of that. But this one, three, I think fairly evenly matched. Now the district is overwhelmingly Democratic. There's about around 2,500 enrolled Democrats, and about 1,500 non-enrolled voters, and I think around 700 Republicans.
Okay.
So it was, and it probably should be a Democratic winner. But the Democratic nominee is one of the unknowns. But the fact is that if either one of the Donaldson should be, and I'm not voting. I'm not taking sides here.
But you live in that district.
Yeah, it's my district.
Yeah.
Donaldson should be. He should have been a favorite in the primary, and he should be a favorite in this election. I think the thing that'll bring Donaldson into play, if not to have an advantage, is that I think a lot of Democrats stayed home. And the primary had a 15% turnout, which is unfortunately is standard.
Yeah.
I enrolled in the Democratic Party after a long career of being an NE, as they call them.
Yeah, non-enrolled.
Non-enrolled, because I felt based on my job as a journalist, I didn't want to be seen as taking sides and being a Republican or Democrat. But then in the mayoral contest of 2011. It finally occurred to me that I had no voice in the general election I had no voice in the primary where the elections are settled as constituent. So I enrolled, but these folks didn't turn out. I think the old line Democrats, the old Dave Donaldson Democrats, who didn't vote, will be coming out. More of them.
Yeah.
I think that gives him an advantage. On the other hand, Donaldson has been around for almost 30 years, and there's a lot of new young people coming into the community, and they may look on his. They may think it's time for a change, and the other two candidates offer that change. Now the change that Erner is offering is fairly radical progressive, and that's he's not close to the mainstream. I'm not sure he's close to the stream, but
it doesn't appear that we're ever going to be able to find out here, because we've tried to get. This is one where we'd like to have a little in-studio debate with these folks.
Well, we've offered. We have our. We've reached out to all three candidates, And I've not talked personally to Erner, but some of his people who are in his campaign and close to him have been contacting him. He hasn't gotten back to me. I think we need to have all three in the same room at the same time to discuss their backgrounds and their thing. So for a change, a Republican has a chance because you don't need 51% to get elected in this district. You need roughly 33% of 35%. And that's doable for any of the candidates. So it may be, we may not know who's actually winning on election night.
So we should disclose that both Timbrook and Donaldson have accepted our invitation, and Erner, you have not even been able to get a return call.
Yeah, to date. It may be in Erner's interest, and these are political campaigns, and the object is to get elected. I mean, I know that sounds trite, but
it sure would be nice to get out here and debate the issues with your opponents and have a couple of moderators who can throw you some hardball questions.
Nice doesn't get you necessarily elected, Mario. You know this better than anybody. Nixon, probably the only time he told the truth was he swore he was going to go to all 50 states in 1960. And he went to Alaska, I think, in the last week of the election, where he should have been in Ohio, for instance. It is a little, of course, there is, I'd like to get this out there. I'll write about this, I think, on Monday on my blog. But being a Democrat and being in the district, I get the flyers.
Sure.
Donaldson's putting some serious money into this campaign. The other two, not so much. And he's put out some pretty nice, pretty slick flyers. The camera can't pick this up yet, but one of the graphics shows Donaldson at a desk signing something or working on something with Pat Ryan looking on attentively.
Oh.
So it's very much the teacher-student, Donaldson being the older man.
Yeah.
You get the impression that Ryan doesn't make a move without checking with the chairman.
Yeah.
And Donaldson is running on a self-created good government party line, and his theme is his experience. He's been there. He's done all these things, for better or for worse. Mm-hmm. He is the only experienced candidate. Neither one has ever even run for office before.
Right. Yeah.
So there's that. So I was curious about whether Pat Ryan was in fact, one would draw the conclusion from this photograph
He's
that
being endorsed by Ryan.
Being endorsed by Ryan, but he's not the Democratic candidate.
Right.
In his primary.
And Ryan's a committee person, isn't he?
I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure, but there is a rule in place in the Democratic committee adopted by its members that a committee person cannot campaign for or donate to a candidate who's running against a Democrat upon penalty of expulsion. So I asked Ryan face to face at his budget after the budget presentation. He did a brief press conference, and I mentioned this flyer, and he was familiar with it. And I said, "Are you endorsing Dave Donaldson?" This is a sitting chairman of the legislature.
Right.
He is a lifelong Democrat.
Yeah.
And a real Democrat. I mean, Dave's a Democrat. And I respect that. And you're a Republican. I respect that. But Ryan said to me, "I will be endorsing Democratic candidates for county legislature." So I said, "Will you be endorsing Dave Donaldson?" And he repeated with a smile, "I will be endorsing Democratic candidates." So whether this picture, it's hard to imagine this picture was authorized by Ryan.
Yeah.
Because it gives the impression, if you choose to believe that, it gives the impression that he has endorsed him, and he's quite emphatically saying he's not.
Wow.
That might be a factor. in the election. There's a lot of factors in this election that in a very close election. Somebody might win this seat by 25, 50 votes.
Oh yeah. This thing could actually come down to the wire.
And you might get into recounts and the usual stuff that happens in close elections. And I think there is a county, county rule, county law that says if it's within 1 or 2%, that you have to have a total recount.
Well, I think we should continue to pursue the candidates to appear with us. Maybe we're going to be back here on October 29th, a few days before the election. I'd love to have a debate, because that's a really big race.
Like we tried to do last year when Michelle Hinchy and Jen.
She wouldn't come on.
The two of them wouldn't come on.
Yep. And Jen Metzger wouldn't come on.
That's right. Jen Metzger was the other one. She lost.
It cost her.
But remember, we talked about it. What did she raise? $900,000 for her campaign.
Over $1 million.
Yeah, that's a lot of money for around here.
Yeah.
I would not to discuss internal politics between me and my co-host, but I would recommend. And I have a vote. I would recommend doing it earlier than the last Friday, because for the reasons, Mario, being that when I was doing editorials for the Freeman, we made it a policy of running our election endorsements midweek before the election, to give people a chance to listen to what these, if we get them, to listen to what they have to say, to kind of absorb.
Let's try for the 15th.
Well, yeah, the 15th.
Yeah, or try for both. You guys have 3 shows this month, including today. So
yeah, the 15th I would shoot for.
I like it. Now, one last item that we're almost out of time, so I'd like to get. Well, first of all, I wanted one of the things I wanted to say is, have you driven in Ward 1 in the city of Kingston? Because there's a Peruso sign on every other lawn. So he obviously is pretty popular, and he must be working hard, because he's getting these folks. He must be going door to door and getting these folks to put up signs. But wow, Steve, good job. I mean, he's doing it.
He's doing it, but of course, lawn signs don't vote. But I'm a believer in lawn signs. If somebody is willing to put your sign on their lawn,
that's support.
At the very least, their neighbors are going to see it. Yeah. Although sometimes I've seen lawn signs for opposing candidates on the same lawn, the husband and wife.
Yeah, we saw those when working.
Yeah. Now, let me say about the Republican candidate. I don't know this woman. I haven't met her. I've had no contact with her. She was a candidate briefly for town council in Ulster. Tiffany, what's her last name?
She's in running in Ward 4.
I know, but she was a candidate.
Oh yeah. She hasn't run for office. She was interested in a town board seat.
Yeah.
When she lived in the town of Ulster, but she lives in the city of Kingston now.
Yeah. But it was that caucus, and I think she either defeated or just withdrew.
Yeah.
It got a little.
There was some inside baseball going on.
Yeah. This will give you a great segue into the congressional office that we want to talk about in depth with the 10 minutes or so we got left. Signs that say to somebody who moved into the ward, for a cup of coffee, signs that say vote for Tiffany. Now, who the hell is Tiffany?
Yeah.
And she has, what's her last name?
Christiana.
Tiffany Christiana. It's going to say on the ballot Tiffany Christiana. For alderman. Tiffany, there can't be that many people who know her so well that they're on a first name basis with her.
Right.
For someone who may have lived in the ward for 20 years, perhaps, or even a year or 2 years. 2 years, I'll give her 2 years. So, I don't think this is great strategy.
That's just bad. That's rookie political mistake.
Well,
when I was chairman, I didn't let my candidates.
First name stuff.
Do a first name campaign. That's just that's.
Well, Joe DeFalco is also running for Ward 3 too, so he's kind of splitting the votes with her, because Ward 3 is the neighborhood that we grew up in. Hugh.
Yeah, our ward.
Yeah,
Main Street and so forth. Yeah, Mountain View Avenue. Now, to segue, the last person who did a vote for my first name ran for Congress 2 years ago, and vote for Kyle for Congress.
Yep, Kyle.
Kyle Vanderwater. Sadly, Kyle Vanderwater is dead, and that is a tragedy. 41-year-old man with four children, but that didn't work at all. He had not established even last name recognition at that point. But so let's talk about the race for what will be.
Well, I think that race got very interesting with the announcement that Molinaro would be running next year for Congress against Delgado. What's interesting, there are a couple of interesting things about it. The first is, if the New York State Democrats wanted to protect Delgado, they might have reapportioned the map to keep his opponent out of the, a solid opponent out of the race. Unfortunately, they can't do that because these two guys live very close to each other. One in Rhinebeck, one in Red Hook.
But Mario, aren't they going to reapportion that district for the upcoming race, or is it the next?
Oh yeah, it'll be next year's race is going to be a new district.
So they can still do it.
Absolutely.
So we should not be surprised if Delgado moves west.
We should.
Well, he's in Rhinebeck. He's either got to move.
Yeah, and
the other guys in Red Hook.
The other guys in Red Hook, they're a couple of miles apart. So it's going to be hard, and it's going to look very suspicious if that district carves out Red Hook or some, if some crazy stuff is done there.
It can happen.
Oh yeah. Oh, listen, with this crew up in Albany, anything can happen.
There was a story in Kingston about John Nacarado, who was an alderman. His first office was alderman, and then he was a county legislator, and he was a popular guy. And he won every race, and Republicans had some clout in those days, but the Democrats had taken over, and they reapportioned the city, and they drew a line down the middle of John Street to put him in a district. The typical thing is to put two Republican incumbents in a district, so you definitely lose one of them. But they didn't know that John had moved across the street.
Oh, jeez.
And so he prevailed. That'll be a funny thing if they run that line somewhere north of Rhinebeck and south of Red Hook.
Yeah. So I'm not. Here's what I would say. Delgado is a money-raising machine. He does two things very well. Mm-hmm. He has town hall meetings, canned town hall meetings. He's not even in the town when this is happening. They're remote. So he's probably in Washington running a town hall meeting in, Milan. But in any event, he pulls it off. He's got a tremendous crew. You want to ask a question, you have to submit it so that one of his wordsmiths can write the answer and he can read it back. But and they call these town halls.
He is pretty good on his feet. I've seen him at these.
Oh
things.
no, I'm not saying he's not good on his feet, but he always you don't get a question unless
he's prepped.
It's submitted in advance.
All right.
We don't want any surprises. But the thing is, and I think Molinaro is also good on his feet. So I think this is going to be I think Molinaro will raise a pile of money. Now, he had difficulty in New York State raising money against Cuomo. So he was grossly outspent in New York State. However, the money for congressional races don't come from the district.
Beltway.
They come from the Beltway. And based upon the polling, if Molinaro starts out within 6-7 points, the money is going to pour out of Washington into his race, and I don't think he's going to have a problem raising a couple of $1 million. Now, again, Delgado is a money-raising machine. and no question about it. However, here's the interesting thing for me. I went back to the map of the gubernatorial election, and Molinaro won every county in the 19th congressional district against Cuomo.
Except Ulster.
Except for Ulster. Molinaro lost Ulster by 5,900 votes against Cuomo. Delgado won Ulster by 19,000 votes. So there were a lot of people in that election that voted for Molinaro. 14,000 of them voted for Molinaro and also voted for Delgado. So they're going to. So a lot of people, I should say, that voted for Delgado, okay, also voted for Molinaro against Cuomo. Now those people, so there are about 14,000 people in Ulster County that voted for both Molinaro and Delgado. That is going to cut, in my opinion, that is going to cut into Delgado's 19,000 plurality. If those just whack up 50-50.
Boy, that's a stretch.
It isn't, because he was running against Kyle. I mean, you know, and Molinaro is somebody who's gotten, you know, those 14,000 votes. So I think the plurality in Ulster tightens. And then you got a guy who won against Cuomo in every other district. And I haven't done the numbers yet. I will do those numbers before next year on how if he outpolled Delgado in those districts. You know, and I think so. What I'm thinking is,
and he pulled more votes.
Yeah. So what I'm thinking is, if you look at, you know, if you go down to Washington and you're doing your pitch to the Republican Congressional Campaign Committee, and you're saying to them, I need $1 million, and you can show them that you won all of these counties in the district when you ran for governor, and you can show them that you at least polled equally, whatever, that money's going to pour out, because I think they see Delgado as vulnerable.
Well, let me give you a little intel on that subject. I was advised that Delgado and Molinaro would appear at a what do they call it? The volunteer firemen firefighters when they get new equipment.
Oh, the wet down.
That's the word. Thank you. They were having a wet down in Tivoli.
Oh, okay.
And for volunteer firefighters, this is a big, big deal.
The wet down? Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I had never been to one. My wife and I, Phyllis, took photographs of it. I was very impressed by the turnout and the enthusiasm, and volunteer companies from all around the area, from Germantown and Red Hook and so forth. They show up with their trucks and they spray water on the new truck. That's the wet down, and on each other. And it's fun. It was a very festive occasion. And so, since both announced candidates were going to be there, naturally, being a political guy, we went over.
Yep.
And Delgado did not show up, and I was not surprised, particularly. I mean, this is Molinaro Central. He's a former mayor of that little village.
Tivoli, yep.
Tivoli, and
assemblyman from that area.
Assemblyman, what else was he? And of course, county executive. There's this giant boulder on the lawn of the village hall that speaks to his service as mayor.
Oh, wow.
And that it says, I read it. I like to read those things.
Yeah.
It read to Molinaro, who brought back hope to our community.
Wow.
Wow. And I happened to run into Pat Doxey, who was a Freeman reporter who covered that particular event, and she actually wrote that. But so I wasn't surprised that that Delgado was not there. But I had a chance to talk to Molinaro, who's fairly open about, he's accessible type of guy. You can chat with him. And I raised some of the issues that you just raised about financing, and I talked to him quite frankly. I said, your race against Cuomo was drastically underfunded. It wasn't really a legitimate race in that sense, in a monetary sense. Yeah. So he told me. Now he might have fudged, he might have lied, who knows? But I found this an interesting statistic. I said, so how you doing with fundraising now? You've declared. I know it's early. He said, our initial poll, this is what he told me, our initial poll showed me 4 points behind Delgado in name recognition.
Oh, wow.
Now, if he's this close, you talk about going into carrying all those counties, which would be important, but name recognition throughout a district is serious, and that connotates a viable candidate, at the very least. So. I can't disagree with you that this should be a very competitive race. I would give the edge to the incumbent because they always have an edge. And he has a machine, Delgado, and he buried, pardon the pun, he easily defeated Kyle 2 years ago.
Yeah, but he outspent him like 15-1.
It was obscene. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's not going to happen again. And also, there have been a lot of things going on in Washington, and our congressman is as silent and quiet. And people want to know. I think people
for better or worse, they want to know where these guys stand.
Let's just talk about just in the last couple of weeks. You've had a government shutdown, threat of a government shutdown. He's silent on that, not a word. You got the $1 trillion infrastructure package. Is he in favor of voting on it without the 3.5 human infrastructure? Is he what's he doing there? We can't find out. Then you got the 3.5 trillion. Is he in favor of that? Does he think it's too much? Does he think it's too little? Not silent. I mean, we're talking about a guy who's completely silent on the government spending $4.5 trillion. Hello? I would really like to know where my congressman stands on this kind of stuff. I can't find out anything, okay? How about the debacle in Afghanistan? Does he have an opinion? Does he think that Biden was not truthful when he said on TV that he was never told, was never recommended? Does he think the generals were out of line, that they were lying? Does he think Biden was lying? Does he think Biden forgot that they told him nothing? So he has no opinion on Afghanistan, no opinion on spending $3.5 trillion on one bill, no opinion on spending $1 trillion on another bill, no opinion on the shutdown. How is it that we have a congressman and he has no opinions or is unwilling to share his opinions? Look, put out a press release. I think we should do this. I think we should do that. Nothing. You hear not because if he put out a press release, it would get printed word for word in the Freeman. At least we'd be able to find out what the press release said. The guy is completely silent.
He has an office at 256 Clinton Avenue. I've never even seen the lights on in there. It's right across the street from my house. I see it every day. Yeah. I've never even seen the lights on.
Wow. So I'm not sure what's going on but he's definitely the stealth congressman,
invisible congressman.
And his I think his approach is the less I say, the better off I am.
Well, seems to be working.
Well, I don't know. I don't think it's going to work against Molinaro. I think Molinaro is going to win. I'm going to predict that. I am going to predict that right now.
All right, we're holding you accountable.
Molinaro is going to be our next congressman.
I was hoping Molinaro was going to run for governor, but
if Delgado wins, then I have to get in.
He's not going to win. He's. Well, we got about a minute and a half left. You guys had a great show today. A lot of call-ins, a lot of people watching on YouTube. Any final thoughts heading into the weekend?
Well, I think this is the beginning, early in October. I believe there's the Garlic Festival this weekend.
Yep, the Garlic Festival is this weekend. The Italian-American Festival.
Oh, next weekend, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's good food down at the Strand next weekend.
You know,
and if you can get to Saugerties with all the traffic, because the Garlic Festival it's hard to get into Saugerties starting tonight.
Yeah. And that's a great one. And I'll tell you, here's what I'm going to tell you about the Italian-American Festival. My wife and Annie and I go each year. And a lot of times, the food is so good, they run out.
Yes, they do.
I mean, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Capolas puts out a real...
Downtown Cafe has a booth. Graziano makes meatballs. They got a Zeppeli thing with
and Savona's. We tried to get. I mean, the line at Savona's was so long. It was. I mean, so I'm like, you know what? How am I coming to an Italian festival and leaving hungry?
Right.
I mean, this is crazy. But the food was. I mean, seriously, folks, if you like Italian food, you got to get down there.
And they serve Italian beer. They serve Peroni, which actually tastes like Heineken, but it's an Italian beer. Have you ever had a Peroni before? They're delicious.
Well, let me just
on a hot day.
Let me just say this: when I was in the Navy, I spent some time in Italy, and Peroni, the Marines and the sailors wanted Budweiser. You know?
Really?
And they would think the Peroni was garbage beer, but now, I mean, I would drink it because every time we went to another country on the ship, you know, I want to have a little taste.
Right, it was something different.
I thought it was good. But
yeah, it is.
These guys, these sailors, these Marines that I was with, they were like, we want Budweiser. All they wanted was Budweiser.
Those European beers are different. I got tanked on San Miguel when we were stationed in Spain.
Yeah.
And I never had a headache. I'm Irish. You know, we're immune to these things. And I bent over to tie my shoes the next morning, and I thought my top of my head would fall off.
Well, listen, folks, we're out of time. Thank you, Mario. Thank you, Hugh. You guys have a great weekend, and we will be back Monday with Medical Monday.
And we'll see him in 2 weeks.